What happens when you've achieved everything you thought you wanted, but still feel like something is missing? In this episode, I sit down with former IBM executive, speaker, author, and leadership coach Anouk Brumfield to discuss ambition, leadership, career growth, and the difficult questions many high achieving women eventually face. Together, we explore how success evolves over time, how to recognize when it's time for a pivot, and why fulfillment often requires more than titles, promotions, and professional achievement. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Welcome to Career Growth for Working Women. If you're feeling tired in a way rest alone won't fix, or successful on paper but unsure what's next, you're not broken. You're not alone. I'm Shannon, a promotion and compensation coach, and this space is about helping women grow their careers with clarity, confidence, and sustainability, not pressure or hustle. Take a breath, settle in, and let's talk about what's really going on beneath the surface. Hello, welcome to the show. My guest today is Anouk Brumfield, and what I love about her story is it spans both achievement and reinvention. Anouk didn't come from privilege or a career path to executive leadership. She was raised by a grandmother who made tremendous sacrifices so she and her brother could have opportunities that previous generations didn't. Watching those sacrifices shaped her understanding of hard work, resilience, and what's possible when someone believes in you. That foundation carried her through more than 30 years at IBM, where she ultimately became an executive vice president and senior partner, leading global teams, major transformation, and billion-dollar portfolios. But what makes her perspective especially relevant for this audience isn't just the title she earned, it's what she learned along the way about ambition, leadership, identity, and what happens when success you've worked so hard for no longer feels like the full story. Today, Anouk coaches, speaks, writes, and mentors leaders who are navigating growth, transition, and the questions so many high achieving women eventually face. What's next? We're talking about leadership, reinvention, career growth, and how to pursue success without losing yourself in the process. Anouk, welcome. I am so excited for this conversation.
I am super excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So I want to start from the beginning. You talk about the sacrifices that your family made for you. So how did those early experiences shape the way you approach ambition and success today?
Yeah, I saw my grandmother who only had a third or sixth grade education, but she was such a hard worker. She was the wisest woman I've ever met. And she taught me so much about hard work, about building relationships, about making sure that your word is your word, that people could bet on your word. And so growing up, I began to have lots of questions. I began to really dream big, and I knew I wanted more than what I saw. But what I saw from my grandmother was I saw that hard work and I saw that determination and I saw how she was so accomplished, even though she had so many challenges or limitations, and she still overcame. So that I knew that if I was positioned well with getting the opportunity of education and being connected to the right people, that I could do whatever I wanted to do. So I'm pretty excited about what I was able to witness and then how that then helped to springboard me to my next.
I love that. I love grandmas.
Yes,
So,
they are so
so
precious.
you spent 30 years at IBM and climbing the ladder. And so looking back, what do you think helped you continue advancing uh you know, when I feel like a lot of people that are talented or are high achieving women, they sometimes seem to plateau, but you seem to keep climbing. So, what do you think helped you do that?
Yeah, first it was my mindset. I really wanted to continue to progress. And when I was first in corporate America, I used to hear this saying that there's a glass ceiling for women. And so I
Yeah,
wanted to see, is there really a glass ceiling?
right.
And I challenged myself. I set goals and I was really deliberate and intentional. And when I first got into corporate America years and years and years and years ago, that there was something about the corner office because back then everybody worked in the office. And I
Yes.
aspired to have a corner office. And so I began to seek out mentors. I began to seek out sponsors. I began to seek out people that could give me advice and to kind of help me create a path, a plan in order so that I could have one of those corner offices one day. And so I think that was the key for me that I realized that I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
I knew where I wanted to go, but I didn't know how to get there. So,
Right.
what better way than to create a plan by just asking people that had achieved? And they were so willing to give me advice. And again, I had to then customize it based upon my true interest and based upon who I was. But those are the things that really helped to accelerate my growth and to help me to continuously advance in corporate America and climb up those corporate ladders.
So were those mentors people that were in IBM as well, or was it also people that were outside the organization that were just like in your tribe?
Yeah, I had both. And I think it is important to have both because different ones kind of add different value. Because sometimes when you get ones outside of your organization, that you can maybe be more open about things and you don't have to worry about those things backfiring. But the
Right.
reason it's good to have the people internally is because they really understand the landscape, they understand the politics, they know the people, so they can help you navigate. And then there's a lot of things that you might be able to better discuss that you may not be able to disclose to people on the outside. So I do encourage people to make sure that you have a lot of different mentors or sponsors or coaches for different reasons, because different ones I think come into play for different reasons and at different times.
Yes, I agree. So I would love to know, this is a fun question I like to ask on here is, has success changed for you over the years? Like when you first started out to today, how has success, the definition of what success is, changed for you?
Yes, it definitely has. And I always tell people that you have to define your own operational definition of success. And I do think that as you mature and things in your life change, the way you define success changes as well. And I would say early in my career, I was very career oriented and I was so focused. And so to me, that's how I define success. And then I began to have a light bulb come on to realize that success is not really the titles, it's not really the positions. And so for me, success is more about, the impact that you can make and how you can kind of serve others. It's about the actions that you take and the examples that you lead. And so as I got more mature, both in age and in my career, I then began to realize my definition of success dramatically changed. So I then felt like I was successful when I was really helping other people, when I was seeing other people achieve their goals, and I was being more of a servant leader, and it wasn't all about Anouk. So those things had
Right.
changed. And then later, it pivoted again for me. I began to say, am I truly aligned with my purpose? And is this really what I'm supposed to be doing, for another decade or so? And that's when I then began to pivot because I knew that God was calling me to do something, totally different so that I now can even have a different definition of success. So I do think
Right.
it does change.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So what would you say to the women listening right now that they may feel stuck between this feeling gratitude for everything that they've already built and they may be successful to the what they define as successful right now, but they still have that tension that there's more for them. They have a desire to do something more. Have you felt that? And what would you advise for those listeners, the women listening right now?
Yes, I've definitely felt that. Sometimes you can be conflicted. You can look successful on the outside, but on the inside, you can be very dissatisfied because of
Mm.
various reasons. Like for me, it was an imbalance that I experienced at one point that I was doing really well professionally, but personally I was
Mhm.
failing and that I had made so many sacrifices professionally that I was missing out on some of the things that was most important, like being actively engaged in my son's school activities. But hey, I was having to do all this travel and you
Mhm.
realize when you reflect back, time is the only currency. You don't know how much time you have. And
Amen.
so you really do have to make sure that you're making really good decisions and that you are prioritizing things. And that's also why definitions of success will change over time and your priorities do change. And so what I would definitely say that there are three tips. Number one, you have to truly know yourself. And a lot of times, even though we've been in our own body and our own skin all of our lives, it's easily to get disconnected. And you really need to truly take time to reflect and identify what do you really like, what are your values, what are your passions. And then once you do that, sometimes you can know that and still we're so into performing a lot, doing what we think people want or say what
Yes.
people want to hear, that we then get misaligned from our authentic self. So once you know yourself, you have to also be yourself and know no matter what your career goals are, be your authentic self. And like, even though you may have mentors, you may have sponsors, you may have coaches that they've done it one way and they can give you some insights, but you then have to
Mhm.
customize it to make sure that you're staying true to yourself. And
Yes.
then number three is remember to surround yourself. I don't believe anybody gets anywhere alone. So it's
Yeah.
very important for you to create that village, create that tribe. And I've heard somewhere where they said your network is your net worth. And so you
Yeah.
really do need to have those people that you can lean on as you are trying to get unstuck or you're trying to figure out what's my next or what can I do or does this all make sense? But it all starts with you being very true to yourself because I think you have this inner sense and
Mhm.
sometimes it's hard to take actions from it and you get misaligned and that's your body telling you that it is probably time for you to pivot and it's okay that that's part of the journey, that's part of life.
Yeah. So, okay, going along with that pivoting or reinventing yourself, like what, when would when would a woman know or feel that difference between, needing a change or she's simply like burnout, exhausted? Do you know how to feel that difference?
Yeah, I've can definitely say that I can relate to both scenarios that sometimes you can just be kind of burnout because a lot of times we're doing too much too fast all the time and that
Yeah.
we're not taking time for ourselves. So no matter how ambitious you are, you have to remember that you are one body and that your
Yes.
body does need rest. So you do have to make sure that you're factoring time to take, vacations and things like this. Sometimes people say, I have too much work, I can't take vacation. You cannot afford not to take vacation because your
I
body
was
needs.
that person. I was that
I used
person
to
a
be that
long
person
time
too.
ago. And my boss was like, you are taking every
Yeah,
Friday off for the next 3 weeks. And I was like, oh, okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And then when you do things like that and you take those gaps, right, and you take that vacation, that you should come back recharged because you've had time to step away and reset. And sometimes you can take a week vacation. You'd be like, I was just getting accustomed to the vacation. Now it's time to return. So you take
Exactly.
3 weeks, then you really have that time to exhale. So to me, if you take time away, like a vacation, and you come back and you feel like you're reset, that was just, some, burnout period that you had. But if you take 3 weeks off and you come back and you're still kind of feeling that type of way, it may be that it's time for you to do something different. It may be time for a different role, a different a company, or it may be time for a whole new career, or it may just be time where you need to figure out how to get balance, that you might need to have like some hobbies and some things that you're also introducing so that you are really managing your whole self.
Yeah. So what would you say to that person that's like, okay, I've taken that vacation and I know it's time for a change, but I'm scared. I have at least I know right now that I have a job and it's paying the bills, but I know that it's time for a change because I'm not unhappy. What would you say to her?
Yeah, because change can be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
And I would say that if your gut is telling you it's time for a change, just go ahead and take that step. Be
Mhm.
courageous, and it's okay if you don't have the entire path charted out. Just take the one step, and there will be angels or sponsors or mentors, coaches along the way to kind of help you hold your hand for that next step. So just be courageous and just do it. And there's no such thing in my mind as, failure. That either you will learn from it. As long as you're learning from it, it's no failure. And if you don't want to just take that bold step like I did, just kind of pivot totally, you can just kind of think about, okay, how do I start to incorporate some of that over time and maybe start going in that direction while you're still doing your other thing until you get to that comfort zone? Because a lot of times we will get complacent and we don't want to move because we can be not necessarily dissatisfied, but we may not be at our maximum. So I
Right.
would say if you are still like a little scared about just doing it, maybe there's a way that you can take a smaller step, smaller strides, and begin moving in that direction. But this is just one life. It's like, I feel like everybody needs to remember that they're the CEO of their own life. And you need to go
Absolutely.
ahead and kind of plan your life, not just your career, but your life in all categorical buckets, whether it's financial, whether it's travel you want to do, or whatever, and go and plan and do that. And anything that you're not able to get to, it may say, hey, it's time for me to, reset and think about doing some things differently. When I was in corporate, sometimes I was working so hard until I had that light bulb come on when I missed my son's seventh grade year. And then I realized that there has to be a better way that you can have that balance, that I
Yes.
believe you can and you deserve career success and personal success. And you deserve to be healthy, whole, and all of that. And there's
Absolutely.
ways to do it. And one of my colleagues and great friend of mine, we wrote a book called You're Working Too Hard. And it was for leaders or aspiring leaders to give them tools, techniques on how you can truly lead effectively and stay balanced. So there's definitely some secrets to that.
I love that because I think that we all, that's just relative to everybody listening. Like we all have the fear. We all have all these feelings about it. We know when we've taken those steps, but we have to have that balance between family, life, health. And for me, I don't believe there's always going to be that 50-50 balance. It's never a perfect balance. Some seasons it might be a little bit more on work, depending on what you're
Yes,
doing. Other times it's going to be a little bit more on family, or it could be health. It could be whatever it may be. It's not always going to be that perfect, quote unquote, perfect balance. But I think that there is a balance between it because in one season, it might, for these 2 months, it might be more heavy on this one. Whereas for the next 3 months, it might be heavier on that. And so I think I love that. And having that little tribe, your sponsors, your mentors, really close to you, then they can help make sure that you're also staying within those fine lines.
exactly. It's so important, and you have to have somebody that you trust, because
Yes.
sometimes we as women, we are, n not unveiling our true self or don't feel comfortable in certain spaces or certain zones. But if you have at least that one person that you can confide in, that can kind of help you when you know you're feeling drained or you're feeling out of balance or you feel like you need to pivot, and trying to come up with, that path that you might need to take in order to achieve what you want to achieve and where you want to go. But I definitely think we should always be remembering our why. And if you know why
Yes.
you're doing things, that when things get tough and you go back and reflect on your why, that will kind of help keep you in the game. Even though you
Absolutely.
may have to like adjust how you're playing the game, but at least it keeps you in the game when you know why you're doing things.
Yes. I had a mentor that told me the journey doesn't change, just the way you get there does at times.
Exactly. Yes.
And I was like, oh, that makes sense because you think you're going to go this way, but you know what? You're really going to go like this.
Exactly. Yes. And that's life, isn't it?
It is life. It is life.
Yeah.
And you got to live each day to the fullest. So, where can my listeners connect with you to learn more about what you're doing? What's the best place?
Yeah, so I have a website. My website is www.anouk-mc.com, and that's www.anouk-mc.com. So that's anouk-mc.com. On my website, you can get my phone number. You can connect with me on all of my social media platforms. You can get copies of my book and all of that good stuff. I definitely appreciate any support for the various things that I have going on. I'm really on a mission to truly inspire, encourage, motivate, and empower.
I love that. I love that. Okay, so as we wrap up, I love to leave my listeners with a small action step or mindset shift that they can make today. So, what is one step that a woman listening could take this week to create maybe a little bit more clarity, momentum, or any other challenge that you have for them?
Yeah, mine would probably be a mindset
Okay.
shift is that a lot of times we're too hard on ourselves. That I just think we should breathe and give ourselves some grace.
Yes.
Oftentimes, it's easy for us to forgive others. It's easy for us to extend grace to another individual, but we don't always give ourselves that grace. Is that give yourself grace, reflect and keep it moving. Just keep
Yeah.
it moving. Just keep it moving. And I think the best is yet to come. And we have to kind of remember that in our mind and believe that. And I do believe that we can have whatever life we want to have. It's a matter of us going to co-create that life that we want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here with us today. This has been
Yeah.
fun.
Thank you so much for having me. I truly enjoyed.
If today's episode sparked something for you, a question, an idea, or a realization, don't ignore it. I offer promotion strategy calls where we walk through your current role, your goals, and how to position you for your next promotion or raise without burning out or overworking. You can book that call using the link in the description. And if this episode helped you, sharing it or leaving a quick review makes a bigger difference than you know. Until next time, keep showing your value clearly. You've earned it.